For some, creative energy is inspiration. For others, it's oppressive. Because big ideas and big dreams can stay locked away behind big emotions. Welcome to Creative Energy, the podcast, for those who are caught between vision and resistance. I'm Linda, and along with my co-host Heather, we teach on the patterns that keep us stuck and highlight other creators' stories. Our guests agree to be coached on air. Visit us at wearecreativeenergy.com to apply to be on the show. Hello, welcome to Creative Energy Podcast. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Tonight, we're going to be talking about overwhelm, one of our creative blocks. And I think this one, we can make it as big or as small as we'd like, as most of our topics are. But I want to really focus in mostly on overwhelm as it relates to creative projects specifically, because I think we're all a little bit overwhelmed by life lately, especially if you tune into anything on a global scale. It is very easy to get overwhelmed. And from a creative perspective, it's also pretty easy to get overwhelmed if you have a lot of ideas and you have a lot of vision and you don't have as much capacity as you would like.
Ain't that the damn truth?
The thing that came to mind when I was writing about this to prep for this episode is I'm likening it to being in the ocean where you feel like you just are getting hit by wave after wave and you feel like you could be on the verge of drowning. You know you're not drowning, but you can't catch a break. You can't catch a breath. And overwhelm can cause a lot of anxiety. And it's usually around knowing there's a ton to do, but not knowing what to do first and not knowing how to prioritize.
I think that's a really great way to say that.
Yeah, that's usually where that comes in for me. Is like, I do not know what to do first.
And then I don't know if I'm sure you do, where you have this grand idea and then you think about all of the 50 things you have to do just for the one idea.
Yes.
And you're just like, well, that's not happening.
Yes. And really, I mean, you can't do this in your head. And I was just reminded of the very first boss I had at my big corporate job. She needed me so badly. She was just so underwater in the role that she had, and it was a relatively new role for her. And I started, and I'm following her around, and she's telling me all of these projects she has in her plate as we're just walking around the campus. And I'm like, how are you keeping all this straight in your head? And she goes, I haven't had time to get a notebook. That is literally overwhelm defined, right? When you feel like you can't even find a pen.
Task. Yeah.
Yeah. To get your thoughts organized. I think it's the way a lot of us live.
Yeah. I mean, even just last week, I had one of the highest creative energy days I've had in a while. And if I didn't write down all of those ideas or put something down on paper to organize my thoughts, that day would have gone very differently.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes it does feel like drowning, but sometimes like that creative energy just feels like this open field and a stream of galloping horses.
Yes.
And either I'm getting trampled by them or I'm running with them, you know, and really putting it down on paper felt like, okay, I can run with them today and not be like, I'm paralyzed now. I don't know what.
Yes. 100% agree with that. Do you have any more definition of overwhelm that you want to add? I think everybody's really familiar with this, like this feeling, especially as creatives, but I think just generally the last 5 years for people have been really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe before that, but I think we all maybe have different coping mechanisms and things that we've put into place to deal with life overwhelm. But to specifically go into what to do when you are creatively overwhelmed, is a little bit of a different animal.
Yeah. I think the only thing I want to say in terms of defining it, just to bring it down to a kind of neutral level, is that it's just this flood of emotion or sensation that your body doesn't really know what to do with. And that's where you kind of develop the strategies. It's often really involuntary. Like your system will just kind of do what it does. Like either you're going to fight it or you're going to like to push through force. You're going to run away and just hide in a corner, or you'll just freeze and become kind of catatonic and whatever. There are just a lot of things from there. But I think bringing it just down to the sensation level is important, because it's not like you're a bad person or incapable or whatever. It's just that it's an overflow of energy and sensation that your system doesn't know what to do with in the moment.
Yeah, that's a good description. So how does overwhelm show up for you now?
Well, recently I've been noticing it show up in kind of one of two ways. One is I get flooded with ideas and desires and energy, and then I don't know where to start. And there are so many places I could start, and then I don't do anything because it's just like I can't, like I don't have the capacity in this moment to parse it out, and I just kind of shut down. And the second way I've been noticing is I'll get that flood and then actually write it down and have more capacity and more internal resource to be with it and follow threads and map it out and actually take action on it. And then it feels really, really good. I'm like, oh, goodness. Like when it's on, it feels better than anything I've ever felt. It's just like pure freedom and expression and satisfaction.
It's what creatives get addicted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like those are the two modes right now. And that's not how it's always been. But right now, also dealing with job loss and not having the financial resources I need, that's been a whole nother aspect of it that has been overwhelming, is like putting more pressure on my creativity to perform for me. And then it changes the relationship from one of I'm just here to express this, and regardless of outcome, this is what I want or need to do, into how can this forcibly make me money. And I think that's why I'm in a kind of either or right now, is I have these moments of full trust and just letting it run free, and then moments where I'm like, if this doesn't make me money right now, I'm going to die and I can't be with that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that factor is something I need to be transparent about. And it's something that exists for a lot of people, is that when you don't really have all of your needs met, it's so much harder to prioritize pure expression for the hell of it and for the necessity of it for your own health and satisfaction. And how do it's like you have to prioritize surviving to a certain degree, and that can just be hard.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people just say, like, your creative pursuits shouldn't make you any money, or shouldn't be a way that you make money, because that's where the joy gets bled out of them. And I think that can be true. I think this is part of the work that we're doing here, right? Is to help people make the switch, that it doesn't have to be pure capitalism, and it doesn't have to be this purity of expression that there's no ability to make money from it, right? Because money is energy. So when you align creative energy with the allowing of money through your creative energy, then you have full flow and you're able to do just the work that you want to do. And it doesn't feel like work, right? But that is a place that I haven't fully reached and you haven't fully reached.
Nope.
So I know it exists. I see it. I know it
Yes.
exists.
Yes, I have seen it done.
But this is the internal work that we're doing together and we're doing on the show and then we're doing behind the scenes because I want to show people that that exists and I want to get there myself. So,
Same.
yeah.
That's my deepest desire, is to be fully supported with the work that I'm here to do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship for that, and they may not be able to articulate it that well or that way, but they feel that pull of like, there is something I want to work through internally through the journey of entrepreneurship, because you can't become a visionary, you can't become an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, without doing some deep internal work and without being
Fully
really
agreed.
confronted by all your hangups and all the ways you get in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And overwhelm is one of these things that is unavoidable to all human beings, I think.
Yes.
Unless you're just somebody who really avoids any stimulation whatsoever, or like
Just
any
really
commitment,
impossible
which is
in
pretty
life.
impossible, especially if you are a creative.
Yes.
And it is something that we just have to learn to work with and learn to work with the particular flavor that it shows up for us.
Mm-hmm.
With all that being said, lately it's been showing up for me mostly under the title of motherhood.
Yes.
But it's adjacent to the creative path for me because I actually get less overwhelmed by giant creative vision and giant creative projects because that was my training. Like I did a decade of really crazy, complex, huge projects, multi-million dollar, 30 plus teams involved, hundreds of people, where you could get buried in a day's worth of email and crawl into a rock. So I've flexed that muscle enough where big, hairy, overwhelming visions are no longer that scary to me. And I don't get super overwhelmed by them. What I do get super overwhelmed by is my big, huge visions paired with motherhood.
Yes. Like how to do it all with also being the kind of mother you want to be.
Exactly. And spinning all those plates and feeling somewhat fulfilled creatively and feeling like I'm moving the needle on the projects I want to do and building momentum, because it's very easy to get thrown off. And these things are all kind of delicate in their early stages where you really do have to build momentum and keep showing up and keep being consistent and keep showing your face. And, you know, kids are not, they don't care about any of that, right? and they shouldn't. So it's kind of trying to keep those worlds separate and also knowing that this is super important to me. Not as important as her, but it's really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a constant prioritization exercise.
And then a letting go.
And then letting go of any outcome, because the decision to record tonight means that tomorrow I'm going to have less energy. And I'm always that push-pull of where am I going to give and where am I going to take?
Yeah. Where is the cost coming from?
Where is the cost coming from? And so, you know, where it really shows up is physically, like, I think what most people would categorize as anxiety, that like tightness in my chest and the urge to completely check out, which always for me is phone checking out. It's better than my old coping mechanisms, which is a bridge to how it used to show up, which used to show up in drinking. I mean, that was really overwhelmed. Like, well, it's 4:30. You know, especially when I was unemployed back in recession days, and look for a job till 4 and then start on $3 Trader Joe's wine at 4:30. That was really the coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And it was other toxic and distracting behaviors to avoid the feeling of overwhelm. I remember getting really severe headaches in college as I would like put off the overwhelming schoolwork and put it off and put it off. And then I would get like debilitating headaches that would just put me in bed because I just had put myself through so much stress of trying to avoid to the point where my body just like checked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely shut down.
Yeah, completely shut down. And really, like, not admitting I was overwhelmed was one of my biggest, like, gotta just show up as if everything is fine. And even in my corporate days, like, not really asking for help early enough. And so getting to the point where I'm like exploding on people when the workload got too high and demanding help in a different way, which was accepted, like these high pressure environments, everybody kind of does that kind of behavior. But, looking back, like it wasn't healthy. It wasn't a good way to work with that. And just pretending that everything was okay because you're just supposed to take it. You're just supposed to be able to handle these incredibly high workloads, these incredibly high project loads, incredibly high schoolwork loads, that are just not even really sustainable for people to be healthy and get all this work done. So that was my old relationship with it. What was yours?
Oh God, drama. That was mine.
Yeah.
That was my main one. Sometimes I'm very grateful that alcohol never interested me that much. But drama was very all consuming. I would literally get overwhelmed and could not hold it, like could not hold the sensation, could not hold the energy. And so I'd pick fights. That's what I did, or I would share something super edgy on social media and kind of get off on the sensation of people's reactions, So anywhere I could get a fight.
Yeah. Like, what would be the overwhelm, though? Like, what was it that you were trying to avoid when those behaviors would come up?
Well, when I felt the most overwhelmed was when I was in a relationship and everything became a trigger. Like, if he didn't want to talk, my trigger would be like, oh, you're going to leave me. Or if he would flirt with someone else, my whole system would go up in flames. And, there was just always this constant fear of abandonment or a complete lack of safety. And really, I was avoiding my own pain through it. So it was actually and I needed to go through it, but it was also a very compelling distraction from the absolute devastation I felt inside. Just so much pain.
And where were you creatively through that? Like, were you actually able to work creatively?
Yeah. So I was in New York, which is already an overwhelming place to be, by the way. I mean, there's just constant noise, constant movement. But yeah, that was in the height of my new creative pursuits, which was photography and combining, working with women on their anger and exploring expressions and emotions that I hadn't let myself explore before. So yeah, it was at the height of that. And then with all the relationship stuff, it just felt like a constant explosion of emotion and sensation. And I could not hold it. Like it did not go well for a lot of those. Like I created a lot of relationship drama, not just in my romantic relationship, but in friendships, in client relationships. Like I just spilled everywhere. And so there was just constant fires to be put out. And then I would like avoid the impact of my spills because I'm like, I can't, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I just don't know. It's wild to me that was once my reality because I can hold it so much better now. And, have spent 3 years on the floor of dealing with the root issues of all of that. But yeah, I think that was my main thing. I just was angry all the time and fighting something, whether it was in my head or outside of me or something in me. Like it just was a constant fight.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Drama was secondary to drinking probably, but it was definitely high on the list too. and getting involved in other people's
Oh,
drama.
and other people's drama. Yeah, like being like in the middle and like wanting to fix everything and like be needed.
Yeah. Yeah, I was frequently the one putting the person up on my couch that had just broken up with somebody, or like picking somebody up from a bar after a thing, or
Yeah. No, I had my nose up in everyone's relationship shit.
I don't miss any of that.
Oh God, no.
I have such envy. And I think this is where, and I've written a little bit about this online, there's a haves and a have-nots. And it comes down to people who have experienced trauma, like serious childhood trauma, and people who have not. And I want to say serious childhood trauma because it's different, right? People who have been traumatized as adults, like super valid, super necessary to work through, very impactful. But people who experience trauma like pre-verbally have a whole other set of stuff that shows up and shows up and shows up and shows up in all facets of life.
Yeah, it's relentless.
Without them realizing it. It's relentless. And whether we can fully, quote unquote, solve it or not, it might be a lifelong journey. And it might be one of the main reasons why we're here, like, quite honestly. But we can learn to work with it and play with it in some ways over time. But I say the thing about the haves and the have-nots because I've always had this like really, ever since design school, and even probably prior to that, people who are really creative and could just put their head down and create.
Yeah, that level of focus.
That level of focus and that level of not needing the external stimulation or validation. I'm still working towards that place of being able to really be fully in my zone and not having any sort of external influence to that zone. Because I think people who were raised like we were, who dealt with things that we dealt with, we were attuned so acutely to other people's moods, behaviors, activities that it doesn't feel safe to actually not be in tune to all of those other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to choose to put attention on yourself feels terrifying.
You know, I spent a weekend where I literally turned the internet off. Now, this was 5 years ago now, but took the whole weekend, like turned off the internet, turned off my phone, like completely. And I know you've done this with backpacking, right? Like completely went solo. And it's amazing what the brain does coming off of all of that external stimulation. The brain is in absolute protest. At least mine is. And I think some people, though, can really get to that level of focus very easily because they don't have all of those guards up and all of those kind of nervous system gates up that say, like, but what if something's going down that I need to know about, that I'm not safe because there's something I don't know. And so it's interesting to me, like a lot of artists are deep feelers, are highly sensitive, I think have a lot of trauma and have a lot of things that they have battled in their life and have used their creativity to work through those things. But then they fight for the focus. And so when people don't, that's the have and the have-nots, the people who don't have that and can really just get in tune with their creativity, I'm in deep awe of those folks because it's not my reality.
It's so interesting, though, because there are times where I feel hyper-focused and then times where I can't at all. So it's such an interesting thing because I know so many people who have that too, where it's like, okay, I'm hyper fixated on this thing.
Yeah.
And then I can't touch it for a while.
Yeah. And I don't mean necessarily focus in like an everyday sort of way.
Oh, I see.
I mean like the people who are just really like heads down on their mission.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Heads down on like, no, I'm for the next 3 years going to not have much of a social life, not date, not do, and I'm just going to accomplish this thing, or I'm just going to bring my vision to life. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, me neither.
I've always welcomed the overwhelm more than that. So that's where the awe comes in.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Then yes, I fully agree with that.
Yeah. Where would you say you'd like your desired relationship to be with overwhelm?
Well, it feels like something that I feel like I'm starting to deepen into is moving with it in a different way, letting that flood come in and just slowing down to be with it. I think that's something that is opening more right now because I'm letting go of more control. And so I think if I'm talking about desire, that's something I want to open more, like just to fully let go in those moments, especially where it comes in and I'm like, I don't know what to do. What is this? I'm scared. I'm blah, blah, blah. It's just slowing down all the way and being with it in a different and deeper way. Because I'm starting to see, like, when I just let it through and I don't make it mean anything or judge myself, it does actually pass much more quickly. And I'm having these moments where I'm like, oh, it's about control. Like, if I'm trying to control this energy, then the overwhelm stays. But if I stop trying to control it, it's actually a much more pleasurable experience because I think my perception of it is changing a little bit in terms of there's just a lot of energy coming in. So if I take away the labels and the ideas that I have in terms of like what it is, I can just be with it in its pure form, which is energy.
Right.
And it actually feels good.
Yeah. You cannot act on all of it.
Yes. Like not every single idea is going to get done today.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But yeah, it just feels like my relationship is opening up a little bit more where it's like, okay, you know what? I am not in control of this thing. This thing in me is a wild horse and I need to let it run and let it do its thing. Let it touch the places that it needs to touch that do hinder my ability to create or do put parameters on it that it doesn't want to have and getting out of the way. Yeah, I've been recently having this thing in me that I kind of misunderstood at first, where I'm like, all I want to do right now is run and like run fast and hard. And I was like, my body is in no condition to run fast and hard right now. Okay. Like I am in no condition to sprint, but I realized like it's actually the energy inside me that wants to do that. And I haven't let it. So I guess succinctly, I would like to let it run more.
Yeah. I like that.
How about you?
I think I do let the creative stuff run pretty well. Like I feel like my relationship to it right now is more in balance than maybe it's ever been because I actually don't have the time to go off on these tangents. And so what I used to do was like take an idea, run with it as hard as I could for like a really short amount of time when I didn't get any feedback that I wanted from it, like that external validation. And then I would just drop it and move on and like wait for the next wave to come. And I would surf that wave.
Totally.
And then drop it. And then, and like,
yep.
And then I
Very
had
familiar.
all this judgment of myself around I never finish anything. And it's like, because ideas, while they're gifts, like they're not scarce. And they're really not scarce to me at all. And so I can do ideating all day long, any day, but to have the discipline to then figure out what the thing wants next and to like continue to show up for the thing and to also tell all my other children these ideas to wait and that they are still important and gifted, but they need to wait in line.
Yeah.
That's the discipline piece for me. That's the hard part for me. And to keep showing up for the ones that aren't necessarily getting the pats on the head or the like big cheerleaders yet, and to continue to say you're important enough to keep giving energy to. And so I'd say like more presence is one of the things that I'm always working on. And like the fake deadlines just create unnecessary overwhelm.
The fake deadlines. Yeah.
You know, which all deadlines are fake.
Or man-made, constructed.
Yeah.
I mean, rent is a deadline.
Social construct.
Socially constructed deadline.
And then I think a reduction of urgency.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this before. The way I relate to my to my creativity a lot of the time is like that Hamilton song that's like, why does he write like he's running out of time?
Why do you write like you're running out of time?
Yes, that one. I relate to that one 100%. And it was told to me by a very sweet guide that I go to every now and then when I'm feeling overwhelmed. And she said, you need more Cheshire Cat energy and less Mad Hatter energy. It's like, I'm late to a very important date. But it's like, what is the important date? What actually is it? So it's just this creation of overwhelm, like that I kind of do to myself because I have so many tabs open in my brain. I have a lot of actual tabs open as well. And I think just I'm constantly kind of putting my wild horse like back on the track.
Stable. Oh.
Yeah. Or like not necessarily in the stable, but like putting it back in the fence, you know, because it wants to like jump the fence and go find other horses or like do whatever horses do. You're acting a fool and just have to like keep, you know, gently guiding that back to like, no, we're going to stick with this thing that you're already bored of, or you don't think it's good enough anymore, or you're judging because it's not getting enough likes on Instagram or whatever stupid social construct thing. But it's still valid. Its mission is still important. And through that dedication, my theory and what I've seen in others is through that dedication. And that's where the money energy is able to align with the creative energy, because it's almost like this testing process. Like, are you actually committed? Are you actually committed to this creation that isn't just a sparkly new thing? And can you keep refining it? And can you keep making it better? And can you keep going with it even if it's cringy and even if you feel uncomfortable with it and it's not getting the attention you want? And like, it is just constantly asking you those questions.
Yeah. Like, are you devoted to this?
Yeah. Are you devoted to it? Are you willing to keep mothering it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to the tools and how to work with it, I think it's really hard to be overwhelmed if you're in the present.
Yes.
And The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm.
Groundbreaking book. Need to go back to it. It's one of those books you could just constantly be reading.
And go back to it years later and find something new.
Yes, 100%. Always being outside, noticing your environment, how small you are in relation to everything else, how small your overwhelm really is. It is all made up. It's all made up. We all have a lot on our plates. I mean, not to discount that, because people have real fucking struggles. People are really wanting to create and have all these other things that don't allow them to create. And like, overwhelm in life and in creation is really real, but we are really small.
This is really what I love about being in nature.
Yeah.
It reminds me how small I actually am in a way that actually feels good.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's something so much bigger than me, and look at me all fucked up with my own brain.
My own. Yeah. It's, the absurdity.
My own ideas of how life is supposed to go and be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For creative projects specifically, I believe that we aren't given ideas and visions that we're not capable of handling. It may sound a little bit close to the like, God won't give you anything you can't handle, which like, I am not religious and don't have any deity. But I do think that there is something to the creative energy collective and these ideas kind of wanting to come through people. And you see it with trends, actually, like things showing up on opposite sides of the globe at the same time in very similar expressions. There was a really interesting story of these two authors that were friends that only communicated by letter because they were authors and this is like what they wanted. It wasn't a romantic relationship, but it was romance in the sense that it was letter writing. And one of them had started a novel and based on like a dream or something. And then the other one ended up describing this same novel back as like a new idea. But it's like these things that are just, these ideas that are in the ether. And it's where you go, hey, I just thought of that. And now somebody's produced it. Like I was talking about somebody, about that product idea last week or whatever. And now I'm seeing it, that it exists. That kind of thing. Like that is the collective energy of ideas that want to be born. And I really do believe that if you have ideas, not just like a random object you want produced, but you don't care about it. But if you have a vision, a full vision, something that keeps knocking you, keeps tapping you on the shoulder as something that is yours, then I do not think that those things are too big for you. Now, that's not to say that you won't need help. I don't think that anybody gets to full expression of a big vision without a tremendous amount of help. Not even just a little help, but a huge amount of help. And you have to align yourself with similar people, similar big thinkers. But being a visionary is an internal process as much as an external one. And so the practice of asking for help when overwhelmed is part of the practice of being a creative. And we're going to talk about social isolation, creative isolation on an episode because it is a pattern and a block to being a visionary. I think that step one may just be to work with the part of you that feels overwhelmed and bring them gently back to the present, which is kind of what we're talking about with our wild horse, right? And listen to their freak out, but also that they aren't running shit. They aren't the one to be in charge. Step one may also just be making space in your life for the project. Something may have to go so that you can bring it out fully. And that's where the prioritization exercise comes in. And it might not be the time right now. Like I had to put the collective part of this thing, creative energy, what was Jumping Bean, on a burner because I couldn't deliver on that right now at this part of my life. And it wasn't feeling good. I think it'll come back. I still believe in it, but it's something that I had to make space for the way this wanted to pivot and move. So after you've kind of gone through these like prioritization and working with the part of you that feels overwhelmed, then it's a brain dump. It's like get it all out on paper. And we're going to be doing this with our June guest in a workshop. And if someone who's listening is interested in this and they have a big vision and they don't know where to start, we are offering a couple of these free of charge as ways to cut our teeth in doing these brand strategy and kind of vision strategy sessions with people. But it needs to be kind of everything you're overwhelmed by getting it out on paper and what the accompanying thoughts are. So if you've got limiting beliefs that are tied to things, any voice that comes up like, don't put that down, that's not important, or like, that's the thing to put down. And any voice that says like, that's stupid, you're never going to work on that, like double down on it. And then taking all of that brain dump, and if you're not a linear type of thinker or don't feel comfortable with any sort of project management, I would find someone who is. There's someone in your life who is a left brain thinker, and have them help you turn it into a linear step-by-step process where there's no step that's too small. So I'm always breaking my to-do list down into like super minutia because it feels so good to check those boxes. So it's like, if it's research this, it's not just research this. It's go here to this website and search these terms. That's the step. If it's start writing a book, like that is not step one, right? So breaking it down to like, what is the very, very, very smallest step that you can take? And no step is too small to document. That's what I would say are my biggest tools for working with any sort of overwhelm, but specifically creative and project related overwhelm.
Great. I love those. There are two things I would add. One is to name the overwhelm, name the sensation, like put some attention on it, because usually even just a little bit of attention helps it move and dissipate and takes away the power that it has over you. And two is, I sound like a broken record to myself, but really doing your best to remove judgment and harshness, because those are the things that add even more overwhelm to the original overwhelm. And nothing moves sustainably and genuinely through force. So the most compassion and grace and gentleness you can possibly muster is going to make this process much easier.
Absolutely. That feels good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Want to go deeper into this work? Join the waitlist so you're first to know when the Creative Energy course opens. The link is in the show notes.